Hello everybody, it is 2 o'clock on Thursday. We are doing my mini training. By we, I mean me. I'm excited today to chat about weighing and measuring. Forgive me, my little French bulldog will be running around today, so we'll try to make sure she is not too distracting, so bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to cover 5 main topics or things to think about with weighing and measuring. I figured it would be easier to have like major talking points versus like, I don't know, any other structure. This seemed just like to make the most sense to me. So first, what is the difference between weighing and measuring? Now, some of you might already know kind of a lot about this, but again, just visiting the basics here. So weighing your food requires a food scale, and when we measure our food, we tend to use like measuring cups or measuring spoons, and even some people might use like their hand measurement guide. That's another way to measure, which is totally fine. The second discussion here is what is more accurate. So the most accurate and most precise method is weighing your food. So as you can imagine, like if you have a good time with the peanut butter jar and a tablespoon or a measuring spoon, you know you can sometimes be under like the line in which makes it like a full serving, or you might have like a heaping tablespoon if it's the good peanut butter, right? So weighing it every time to the exact gram will ensure a more precise measurement, if that makes sense. So I think it's important to know like what are your goals right now and align your methods of measurement to that. So if you are just looking to practice better mindfully and intentional eating, then maybe the cups or your hand is a great form of measurement for you. But if you have certain goals aesthetic wise, like you want to reach a certain poundage, or maybe you're looking to get into physique, or you are a performance based athlete, weighing your food may be very helpful in that way. And those are just a couple examples, and they can be intertwined through a ton of different people. So not to limit that by any means either. So which food scale to buy, right? That's a really common question I get. I'll be honest, this is like super, I don't know, embarrassing, but totally fine. I have a food scale by Smarter Image. I absolutely love it. It was probably, I think it was like the first one I ever got, and I still, for some reason, just like won't let it go. And then I tried Googling it to be able to link for you guys below. But it looks like it's like out of stock everywhere, or they don't really make it anymore. I got it at Bed Bath & Beyond, but I just tried like Googling it, and I only found it on eBay. But it looked cheaper there than where when I first bought it. I think the big thing in picking one out is making sure it's like a size that you want. Like, I don't think you need a big, huge one, but you just also probably want a super small one too, unless you're traveling. So a decent size, and then making sure the digital is a lot easier. It seems a lot faster, more convenient. Typically they either weigh in ounces and grams, and that's perfect and just all you need. I think some of that other stuff can be a little extra. I had a client one time give me those super cool scales that have like the nutrition label on the side and break everything down. And I thought it was super sweet and like way too expensive and so nice. But it was a little more involved, like it had certain codes for food. So I would definitely say if you're like a beginner into dialing your nutrition, not to go down that road where we make things harder or try to reinvent the wheel. Just a simple scale that weighs ounces and grams digitally is all you need. They usually range around like 20 to 25, maybe $30 on the higher end. 10 out of 10 recommend Amazon. I bet you can even find one though at like Goodwill and get it for super cheap. So okay, so we covered what's the difference, what is more accurate, which one to buy, and then some frequently asked questions and some things you want to think about with weighing and measuring your food. So do you weigh in grams or ounces? And I think you should have a routine depending on the type of food or the food category, I'll say. So for example, my like rule of thumb is I weigh my protein in ounces and everything else in grams. I don't know, the grams just seem super easy, like mathematically to add at the top of my head. And proteins, it tends to be easier in ounces for me. And depending on like what apps you use, I think they're saved more in the ounces, but you can always switch them over to digitally. So whatever is really your preference, but I'll talk more about why I do those two. Because the next commonly asked question is how to weigh your protein. So in case you don't know, when you cook your protein, it actually loses some form of its mass by like 25%. So if you get like an 8-ounce steak and you weigh it raw and it says 8 ounces, when you cook it and you weigh it again, it's probably going to be around like 6-ish ounces. So you don't want to log 8 ounces of steak in your MyFitnessPal if that's not what you ended up consuming. So I tell people to weigh their proteins cooked generally, and then everything else raw. So that just avoids having to measure twice or any of that like confusing stuff. And it's when, you know, like with any macro, you don't want to be that far off, especially if you are tracking them. So that would be super helpful. That's like, again, another reason why I weigh it in ounces. I think it's just easier to read. And then similar question, how to weigh pasta. So this I weigh raw. It's can be convenient if you're trying to, or I should say inconvenient if you're trying to do like a bulk cooking for like 4 people. But if you're just cooking for yourself, it's super simple to like weigh to order, right? So you're cooking dinner and you want to have pasta as your carb side. It's easier to weigh it raw and then just cook that amount that you measured. A good way, a good rule of thumb too, I learned from Becky, is that the conversion cooked is about double. So usually a lot of the serving sizes for pasta are about 2 ounces per serving. And that's the raw measurement, or the raw weight, I should say. And so then when you cook it, it's actually closer to like 4-ish, as just like a general rule of thumb in case you need that quick conversion. I also did make up 2 conversion charts, one for proteins and one for pastas at nutrition.ttt on our Instagram page. So if you're not following us yet, definitely give us a follow and check that out. I might even be able to link it in the comments or the caption if I remember. And then the big thing is too, which is like a newbie thing that we all have to learn, is just making sure you definitely take into account what you weigh your food in. So if you got your food scale and you put your apple slices on it and it says it's 100 grams of apples, okay, great, that's 100 grams. But if you are weighing that peanut butter and you put it in the tablespoon and then you put it on the thing or on the scale, you're not taking into account the tablespoon. So I would weigh the tablespoon out first and then add in the peanut butter until the allotted macros that I'm given. Or you can also deduct it. So whatever works best for you, you just do not want to forget to count. Like sometimes I'll use a bowl or a paper towel so I don't have to like wipe the surface of the food scale every single time. But if you do raw meat, you should definitely wipe that thing down so we don't get sick, please. Okay, so those are the frequently asked questions. I definitely want to welcome, if you have any more, drop them below in the comments and I'll be sure to follow up with you as soon as I can. And then to end on here, I want to make sure we go over ways to avoid being overwhelmed with doing this. Because if you've never done it before, you're probably like, holy crap, you just spit a ton of information out at me. I've never done this. I don't even know where to start. So the first one is a reminder that you can take baby steps. So if you're someone that's just kind of prioritized what should be on your plate and now you're learning about amounts, maybe you just start with weighing your proteins. Like, how much are you normally eating? How much should you be eating? Like, what do you need to adjust to get there? And even just weighing your proteins out for a couple weeks and doing that consistently until you feel like, okay, I'm doing this no matter what happens in my day, or it's like a really ingrained habit now, then you can start weighing your carbs, your fats, fruits and veggies, etc., etc. And like even just adding one in at a time is fine. Or if you feel like you've got the momentum and you're doing it, like, of course, you can go all in too. It's just a reminder to meet yourself where you are. The second way to avoid feeling super burnout is to start simple. And I think boring doesn't always sound super fun, but I think that like recipes and getting fancy with your food is like always makes it more enjoyable, right? Like there are things to look forward to for sure. But if you are learning a new skill, it's like playing a game or a video game. Why would we start at level 10 if we haven't even crushed level 1 through 3, right? So let's focus on getting really good at levels like 1 through 5 consistently before you try to like up your game. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I want you to get to that place. I want you to get to the point where you're like, I'm so ready to like figure out how to do this with recipes and make it all count. But sometimes just starting simple and getting really like consistent is where it's at. So that leads to that third step, which is remembering that consistency is key. Now, like I said, this applies to all things with weighing and measuring, like, and probably a lot of other areas of our life, right? But like I said, I weigh proteins in ounces and everything else in grams. And I've decided to do that since I started weighing and measuring my food. And gosh, I don't know, 9-10 years later, I'm still doing that. So it's like pick those like principles for yourself once you've decided the routine that works well for you, and do those every single time. Your body will adapt. Your MyFitnessPal or your macro tracker will become a little bit more seamless, and hopefully you can avoid a lot of headaches and frustrations because this process is supposed to help you and not make things more stressful. But just remember, like doing anything for the first time, you're not going to be super good at it, but I don't think it requires you to throw your food scale and get upset about it. Just, take it one step at a time, right? So this was the like 5 big things that I could think about, or hopefully shed some light on for you with all things weighing and measuring. Like I said, if you have any questions, just drop them below for me. I'd love to hear from you. Any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, what you need more help with, especially on this topic. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing, feel free to send me a DM. I just want to help you guys. So I look forward to talking to you next week, and you have a good rest of your day.